Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ascension Update. I'm Ginette Biro, and I'm a medium and a cosmic channeler. Thank you so much for joining me this morning as we explore what it is Spirit wishes to share about our ascension and our next steps. Now, the interesting thing is today I have a message from the Pleiadians, and when I was bringing through this message, normally what I do is I connect with them, turn on the camera, hit record, and we go. They started bringing through the message. And then I just started writing it down. And as I was bringing it through, I was like, no, this is a great one for the podcast. We'll do this on the podcast. And they're like, no, this needs to be the Ascension update. And I was like, okay. So I keep going like, no, let's do this on the podcast. And they were like, no, this needs to be the Ascension update. And so the reason why I wanted to put it on the podcast is because we're going to be talking about embracing your sacred sexuality. And for some people, that can be a little triggering. For some people, that can be uncomfortable. And for others, they're like, yeah, bring it on. I felt it would need a longer discussion. Thus, I was thinking the podcast, but they were very specific in what they want to share, which is why I have it written down instead of me just bringing it through. So I'm just going to bring this through as they shared it because it makes a lot of sense right now. So the first thing that they showed me, and actually before I even start, the Pleiadians are known within their frequency, their 5, 6, 7th dimensional frequency beings, to really embrace love, union, divine sexuality, divine sensuality, divine union, the higher level understandings of the physicality and what that can bring. Okay. And they know that it is a very important part of our ascension is embracing that. And taking away the negative energy, the old outdated doctrines around sexuality, the shame, the guilt, there's so much of it, especially I think for women as well. There's been a long-standing theme and narrative of shame. If we even look in religions and, sometimes even in the medieval times, you were only allowed to, be in divine connection with your spouse one day a week or a couple days a week or a certain time of year. Otherwise, any other time where you had an energetic connection and an urge to be with them was negative and sinful. And so there's a huge distortion on our concepts of sexuality. A lot of it is changing, very much so, because more people are talking about it. But the Pleiadians wanted me to bring this through today because it is such a powerful energy that it helps to balance out the anger energy that I talked about on the podcast on Tuesday. So if you missed the podcast, check that one out. So this is what the Pleiadians had to say. So the first thing they showed me was a hibiscus flower. That was the image. And they said that this now, post-eclipse, is a season to awaken your sensual self, to celebrate the moment, and to balance the anger energies with love and creative sacral power. And they said the reason why this is important is that creative sacral power is our point of unlimited potential. What is created energetically when in that frequency, and I'm going to explain this better soon, has this like heightened frequency. They also said that this is part of the reckoning right now. And this is excuse me, this is a return to the sacred nature of personal or partner union. A return to the sacred nature. And they were very specific about using the word sacred. And they said this is not in the negative ritual manner of power or energy siphoning that sometimes, if you think about your own experiences or different stories you hear, sometimes sexual energy is used as a power siphoning, right? Taking power from. We can think of lots of examples, right? The other thing they said too, though, this return to the sacred nature is also not done in the complacent or detached, simple physical pleasure way, which is where, you just, simple pleasures. Let's just put it that way. I'm trying to keep it good for YouTube here. So they said it's important to bring back the power of it, the sacredness, and they emphasize that word again, unlimited potential here. The return to love is also in the energy generated. We are designed to have this capacity, this natural desire towards union. Again, a union in partnership or even a union within self. Again, there's so much negativity placed on our capacity to connect in with our own bodies, generate energy, connect into sacred realms that way. Even Jesus and Mary Magdalene had the understandings of divine sacred union. She balanced the polarity of his masculinity with her femininity. But that was shrouded, that power was understood to be so potent that it was then shamed so that people wouldn't tap into it in that way, kept people in the carnal level of that kind of connection. And when it's done, excuse me, when it's done in a sacred way, it has a completely different frequency, again, with self or others. So they said the biggest thing too is that it is healing and high frequency, and that the guilt and shame around it needs to be changed. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I can definitely share those points. And they said, or I asked them, how is it though that people are supposed to reach this? Like, what about people that have a limitation? Maybe a physical limitation, maybe they have trauma connected to it, maybe there's a loss of a partner. Like, there's lots of different limitations to our access to it. And they said that it doesn't always have to be a physical way of tapping into that energy. They said if one is limited, one can access this in positive memories or fantasy or transcendence into the astral realm in spirit union. Now, right away, everyone thinks that this means a kind of carnal connection in the spirit realm. It's not that. True divine union even surpasses the physical act of it, whether self or partnered. It is a union of shared heightened frequencies brought in by the balance of that masculine and feminine polarity. So we can balance that masculine and feminine polarity within us. We can also do that with a balanced partner, right? And so understanding this and changing the narratives of what sacred sexuality is, sacred sensuality, is so important right now. Because the old paradigm and the old understandings are to use it as a carnal pleasure and power and dominance. Now, that doesn't mean we can't take pleasure from it. Absolutely, right? It's one of the most powerful pleasures, just as laughter is a powerful pleasure that has a high frequency energy in the body. Just like love does also, powerful pleasure feeling has a high frequency in the body. So too does divine sacred union. So many of you will find they're saying in the next while, they're saying for this season, for this next 6 months or so, you may be changing your perception of what sacred sensuality and sacred sexuality is for you. And again, that can come in a lot of different ways. That can happen in so many different ways. And they're saying to explore it with a new lens. And anytime you come up upon a point where you feel a shame or feel a guilt or something, ask yourself, why is that there? Where is that coming from? Is that a current program or is that an outdated program? And as you start to recognize like what is an old narrative, what is not, you'll be able to release the ties and bonds that held it in a slightly negative frequency. Because as we ascend in mind, body, spirit, we have to ascend fully. And full ascension also includes sacred sexuality and sacred sensuality. Even just understanding it. If you're in a position maybe where you're not willing to practice it or you don't have or want a partner or you want to connect into it, but even reading about it, learning about it, reading stories, there's lots of written word on our planet with a lot of different ideas and things to share. Even reading about it brings you into that frequency. It's a heightened frequency of creation, right? It's that same, it's a deeper version of how Jesus said, when two or more unite, so it will be, or when two or more agree, so it will be, right? Creation, when paired with equal parts, is that much bigger, that much more. And so it's really about exploring what that is for you and how does that come up for you? How does that move through your body and what triggers are brought through into your consciousness that you can then question and release, so that as we move into a society that can have balanced, harmonious understandings of sacred sensuality, right? Where we are able to communicate it, we're able to talk about it, we're able to question it, it changes the frequency of humanity as well. We cannot forget that aspect. We can't just be love and light and forget the massive capacity that comes through this physical vessel that deeply ties us to our energetic connections. And that is something that the Pleiadians know very well. And they want us to embrace. But again, they're wanting me to repeat, it's not about sacred, or it's not about sexuality in a ritual manner of power or energy siphoning, nor in a complacent or detached simple physical pleasure. There has to be a sacredness. It has to come back to breath. It has to come back to purpose. It has to come back to connecting either with someone or your own body. And it doesn't have to be this big sacred experience every time either, but it's the purposefulness and the authenticity in the moment that is so incredibly important and helps to shift our frequency. So there you have it. That's what the Pleiadians wanted to share about it. There's more to come about sacred union. We're going to be seeing more of this. There's going to be more sacred pairings coming together. I did talk about this a lot in the beginning of the year, even in the fall last year into the beginning of this year, that there were more divine unions happening. And this is with purpose. And we're going to continue to see this because a united humanity of equal pairings and partnerships has so much more strength than individuality. And sometimes we need to unite that polarity within self first. So definitely something to ponder. Very interesting Ascension update. And I encourage you all to just really ponder, see how this sits with you and what comes up for you, what triggers for you. And yeah, I will leave that with all of you. So happy Ascension, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.